Welcome back to eClerx Talks, where today we're going to have a tech chat with Manish Mittal, who is the SVP of High Tech Manufacturing and Market Intelligence with eClerx. Manish, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Adam, for having me here. Glad to be here.
What we would like to do, Manish, then is ask you three questions that I think that would be very helpful for our market to understand the market problem out there today, what our technology foundation is, so you can provide a bit more insight into how we operate eClerx with the technology, and then tie that all back into business value. So really the insight to action aspect. So let's start with the first question, which is really about the market problem. So digital shelf teams are dealing with more signals than ever, right? And that includes things like visibility, content quality, pricing, availability, and competitive movement. Why does this fragmented environment make an agentic AI first approach more important today?
Very good question, Adam. So you are absolutely right. The sources from where we are collecting this data and hence these signals is totally fragmented, especially in today's world. So earlier we were largely referring to marketplaces or e-commerce websites for collecting these signals and data. Then came the era of mobile applications, which is what we added to our repertoire. We were collecting information and data from mobile applications as well. And the latest to enter the fray essentially is generative AI and AI-powered question and answer bots, which you see on various websites. For example, you see roofers, etc., on Amazon and other marketplaces. So not only we are collecting information from websites, e-commerce marketplaces, we are also collecting information from mobile applications. We are also collecting information now from generative AI frontier LLM models, because that is what a lot of younger generation is going to make their e-commerce decisions as well as get recommendations on. So it is absolutely a fragmented space. Lot of sources of data, which is where it is important to have a technology foundation which is more modular and flexible in nature. What essentially that means is if a new source of information has to be added for digital shelf performance measurement, it should be doable easily, which is where Agentic comes in. Earlier, what we used to do was probably write more customized scripts, whereas now in the era of Agentic AI, some of these have been replaced by agents which are able to collect information. Of course, it depends on the size and the volume of the information we are looking to collect. But moving to an Agentic first kind of information collecting mechanism helps us in modularizing the whole system and keep it flexible and scalable. So Agentic first approach definitely helps in doing that, Adam.
That's great. And to tie that into our next question then, which is more about the technology layer, as you know, before AI can recommend actions, it needs to trust the data first, right? So how does our technology connect and validate signals, especially things like through product matching, so AI agents can detect, diagnose, and prioritize the right issues?
Right. I'll probably use an example here, Adam, to clarify or probably expand on the question you asked. Essentially, if we are collecting information on digital shelf from different channels and different sources, we need to kind of tie all that back into one uniform view for the consumers to be able to use that information. So if you are, for example, collecting the information about a product which our clients or digital shelf users are interested in, we are collecting that product's information from e-commerce marketplaces. We are collecting that information from mobile applications and also from frontier LLM models, generative AI, and so on. What then becomes very important is to tie all of that information back into one uniform view. Otherwise, you get disconnected, disjointed information, which is of limited use then. Which is where we are using a lot of generative AI, essentially, for example, to do product matching across different channels, across competitors, and so on. which is a very powerful use case because it then helps in providing that uniform view to our digital shelf users, Adam.
So I guess let's tie that then from the sort of technical aspects more to the how that insight is then used for action. So once, like you just said, the AI agents identify what's happening and why it matters with those signals, how does Market 360 help teams move from insight to action? And what does that mean for faster, smarter digital shelf performance?
So that is again a gap which was there probably a few months ago, and which we have been able to cover largely and are in the process of covering wherever it remains using agents. Again, to take an example, see, we track content also for as part of digital shelf. How is the content doing? Is the content good, bad? What can be done to improve the content? So that's part of our 4D framework. So it not only gets the content, it also assesses the content, and then it also recommends how the content should be, whether there should be more images on the marketplaces, whether the image size is good, whether the clarity is not there, whether the product placement in the image is good, bad. And similarly for the product description, product features, etc., we also make assessments and then recommendations. Typically, what used to happen a few months ago before the agentic world, we used to stop at giving recommendations. But with agentic coming into play, we are able to action those as well. So if there is a requirement to, for example, pull in content from the key store, say product information management PIM systems, and push it to the content management system so that the bestest content is visible to the users, we are able to do that now using agents, which was not possible earlier. So now using agentic, we are able to close loop the recommendations and the insights and the action recommendations that we are giving to our customers.
That's great. And just to follow up on that question then, bringing it back to outcomes, does this AI agentic technology help when it comes to not just recommending the task and acting on it, but also prioritizing the most urgent and the ones that are most likely to lead to highest commercial impact?
Yes, absolutely. So we are able to prioritize, we are able to determine what action will have what kind of an impact and accordingly prioritize. And as you can imagine, AI is still, at the end of the day, is still AI. So for some of the more far-reaching, impactful decisions, we still have human in the loop sort of built in. So that if, for example, if you are changing the price dynamically on a marketplace during a shopping festival season, we still want to have human in the loop, especially for the high selling products. So we have that fail-safe mechanism also built in. But yes, absolutely, we are able to do prioritization basis the impact of those decisions.
That's great. And just the last thing I picked up on, you mentioned data, so human in the loop. So it sounds like this approach is more of a data-informed approach where they get the data, but also humans can intervene and execute in the loop when it makes sense.
Yes, that's correct, Adam. And it depends on the possible impact a particular action can have. And that's where we invoke human in the loop.
That was really useful in understanding the framework, how we address the problems, and how we take it from insight to action. Once again, Manish, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today and provide insights into our eClerx technology and how it helps the market solve solutions. Very interesting session.
Thanks, Adam. Same here. Thanks for the insightful questions.